Hello, you're listening to Hugo Talks. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Christmas, Santa, Saturn, Satan, and the UN and the EU, as I'm tired of the news at the moment. It's all toxic garbage. And this is news of sorts. Now, the last video I put up here, the lockdown news roundup, I implied that governments across the world and huge non-governmental organisations, they don't seem to like Christmas. They made this very clear last month when the EU proposed they wanted to ban the use of the word Christmas and certain Christian names from the Bible like John and Mary, wanting to erase all references to Christmas. It's a bit odd, is it not? What is their problem, you may ask? And it's not the first time they have tried to do this. Eventually, in this latest case, they decided to not go ahead after they got a massive backlash. And now we are seeing countries going into lockdowns or other restrictions, and it's perfectly coinciding with the Christmas holidays in a few days, just the same as last year. Is it a coincidence? The EU, they have their main building in Strasbourg and is designed to look like the famous painting of the Tower of Babel, a building that angered God. And then we have the United Nations and their meditation room dedicated to the God of many names, looked after by the Lucis Trust, formerly called Lucifer Publishing, named after the bearer of light, Lucifer. Watch my video, United Nations and Lucifer, to get more information on that. And recently, and you've probably seen this one, the United Nations last month have put a massive sculpture, a statue of a beast outside their building, their main building, a fusion of jaguar and eagle, which they call a guardian of peace. I mean, it doesn't look too peaceful, does it? It looks like it's going to bite your head off. Also, it's worth noting that it is inspired by ancient pagan Aztec culture, and it is somewhat ironic that a symbol of peace is inspired by a culture that was known to be quite barbaric. Anyhow, of course, this matches biblical references to beasts in the book of Revelation. A leopard on its back, it had 4 wings like those of a bird. Or the other part where it says, the first beast was like a lion and it had wings of an eagle. The first one from Daniel, the beast is supposed to represent Babylon. Again, we're going back to the Tower of Babel. One thing that is not mentioned much is it seems to have a dragon's tail, which adds the serpent element, the satanic element, as dragons are described as the largest of serpents. Dragons, which is Draco in Latin, as you hear in draconian laws, dragon laws, which we are seeing a lot coming in at this moment in time. On top of that, we've seen numerous references to 666 from the patent numbers from Microsoft to the House of Representatives 6666 bill, which was a huge $1 billion COVID bill policy brought in America. There's way too many of them to mention right now, but check out previous videos on that. Now, the EU and the United Nations, who have created Agenda 2030 and in partnership with the World Economic Forum and all of this Great Reset crap, are supposedly secular organisations. They're supposed to be secular, but they seem to really like using symbols based on an ancient biblical model, which according to the scriptural text are spiritually dark and end up being destroyed. There are many who believe that the UN will be the catalyst to ushering in a one world government. I believe it was the Jehovah's Witnesses who said this way back in the 1960s. It says here, Jehovah's Witnesses teach that the United Nations is the image of the wild beast, referred to in Revelation 13:1-18, and the fulfillment of the disgusting thing that causes desolation from Matthew 24:15. Now, desolation is a state of complete emptiness or destruction, and of great unhappiness or loneliness. Many people at this time are feeling isolated, are feeling alone at the moment due to segregation, due to policies instigated by these organizations. And of course, the UN and the EU, they love to use the terms like globalization. And what we are seeing at the moment around the world is independent governments, independent countries, all in lockstep with one another, introducing passports and restricting their citizens' freedom, wanting to bring in cashless societies, and all of them signed up with the UN. So anyhow, many see this statue as another symbol of biblical end times. Add to that these intergovernmental organizations' strange fixation on wanting to cancel and ban anything to do with Christmas or biblical names, it all seems a bit odd. Now, I know many of you state on here in the comments in recent videos that many of you have mentioned that you believe that Christmas Day is not the day that Jesus was born. And of course, nobody can know for sure about any of this, any of it. There is no date mentioned in the Bible, and there are certain passages that allude to it not being anywhere near that time of year. Now, I put up a lot of videos up of late about how everything seems to be fake and deception being around us everywhere. And Christmas Day seems to be very much in line with that. Now, I also recognize as well that the majority of people who celebrate Christmas these days, they don't celebrate it because it was the day Jesus was born. That never enters their head. It's a time to have some fun. They are happy because it's a holiday. It's time to go out and get drunk and eat loads of food, get presents, give gifts, watch the telly, meet up with your family, and so on. And there's nothing wrong with spreading happiness and joy with friends and family. It's just a little bit off-centre when the supposed reason for this time is probably not correct and is also not the focus of the celebrations for the majority of the people engaging in it. Now, the reason Christmas Day is on December the 25th is apparently, and I say apparently because again, this is what the history books tell us, if they are to be believed, but the reason for Christmas Day being on December the 25th is because of a Roman Emperor Constantine who decided it would be on that date. If you recall, the Romans used to throw Christians to the lions prior to this time. Now, all of this is, of course, based on, they're based on tales that have been passed down, as with most things. And for me, and this is the way I look at things, I look at things in a simple way. Maybe because I'm a simpleton, but who really knows anything? I see the comments, I look at the comments on the website and on Telegram, and what do I see? I see continually people arguing over history, over the meaning of this and the meaning of that, about stuff that happened hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, even of more recent things like in World War II. Did this really happen that way? And the truth of the matter is nobody really knows what happened or how. As you know, history is written by the victors, and of course you would imagine they will always make themselves out to look like the good guys. Even if you were there back in those times and could witness what was going on, or someone who was there, they or you can only be in one place at one time. You've only got 2 eyes that you can see with and 2 ears that you can hear with. You can only experience one thing in one place at one time. Even if you are high up the ladder, an important person making big decisions, a leader of some kind, you will know more than most, but you can only know so much because you can only experience your life in that moment. You cannot see everything. You cannot be everywhere. So your understanding of what is going on is limited. And the ultimate truth of all that is going on, understanding everything that is happening, is always going to elude you. There's a line in the Bible that says, "The eyes of the Lord are in every place, keeping watch on evil and good." You can't know everything that is going on. So that's why it's good to have some form of faith, if you know what I mean. You can only know so much. 99% of everything you know, it always comes from somebody else. How can you know how to believe them or not? How do you know if what they are telling you is true? You can only use your gut instincts and intuition. That's why I don't get involved in arguments about these things. You cannot know for sure about the past. That's why I bang on about faith, because you only have your gut instincts to rely on to detect what is real or not, who is telling the truth or telling you a load of porky pies. Now, when it comes to Christmas Day, with the date already being doubtful, that it being the birth of Jesus, but again, if we just forget, let's just forget the birth detail and just think of it being a celebration of Jesus, it's still odd. I mean, we can see how over time corporations have commodified Christmas Day. Corporations have come in and taken it over, which you don't really see with other religions on sacred days, on their certain sacred days. For a start, it's been turned into a day of worshipping material things. It's all about gifts and presents and spending money. I mean, there are some families who save all year just for Christmas and get into debt because of Christmas, because of one day. It's feckin' nuts. It's very much focused on greed, focused on eating tons of food and drinking loads of booze. And of course, we then have this Santa Claus character whose name is an anagram of Satan, who also goes by the name of Saint Nick, or the old devil Saint Nick, whose appearance we now see was stylized by the Coca-Cola company, which is what kids are brought up to think is what Christmas Day is about, where they are lied to by their mother and father, told this fake story of how this magical being, Santa Claus, comes down your chimney and leaves presents. You getting presents for nothing. They even get their kids to write to him, make wishes to him, which is like a counterfeit praying. Yeah, you see where I'm coming from. Also, Christmas celebrations are at the time of Saturnalia, the ancient Rome celebrations in honor of the god Saturn, which included copious drinking and eating and partying, okay? Saturn, also the planet with the black hexagon, the black cube, which is a vortex of swirling winds on top of the planet. Saturn, which some believe is represented by the UN meditation room block they have in there, which is dedicated to the god of many names they worship and maintained by the Lucis Trust. Saturn, which is where the day Saturday comes from. That's the day that is synonymous for going out and getting drunk, partying. Saturday night is all right for fighting. That song, you know what I mean. It's the direct opposite of the next day, which is Sunday, which is seen as the day of rest, the day of worship. Saturday again sounds like Santa, which is an anagram of Satan. Santa, who is synonymous with Christmas Day. It's all very confusing, but it seems to me that just like the EU want to ban Christmas, it also seems that cultural influences artificially have been created in order to steer people away from the idea of Jesus at Christmas and replace it with something else, something that is corporate, that is not in keeping with those ideologies, something that is the reverse of those beliefs. And is it in order to try and disconnect them from that ideal and replace it with something else? Okay, so I'm going to stop talking now. To a certain degree, this has been a massive brain fart. I'm basically just pushing loads of ideas around and trying to tie them up. And I don't know. But look, what I'm trying to say is that deception is all around us at the moment. It's a very strange time. The veil has been lifted. People in the public eye are revealing their true self. Some people can see it, some people can't see it. And even when you look into Christmas Day, for example, it looks like this is something that is not what it seems. The date doesn't make any sense. And even if you ignore that date and you just take it as a celebration, then it seems to have been deliberately taken over by corporations over many decades in order to distance people from what it originally stood for. Let us know what you think in the comments. And come and subscribe to hugotalks.com. As I've already said, there are new policies coming into effect on YouTube in January, which I think will push me out of here. So if you want to stay in contact, subscribe to hugotalks.com and you will get notified of all videos I upload. As always, keep the faith, stay strong, and I'll see you later.